live Rat Avenger League preview. I'm gonna start off with a little bit of interesting things that happened last week because we had some some games that should have gone a little bit differently, and I think it's one of the first times that we've had not just one but at least two games that were decided based on actual starts. We'll start with mine against Andrew. And you know, he had good reasoning for not starting J.K. Dobbins, I guess. First week off of an injury, we don't really know what he's going to look like. Playing a pretty stout Bills defense. But scoring 20.3, he started Greg Dortch, who had one catch for 6 yards. That if you're doing the math out there, that is 19 points, 19-point swing. Andrew lost by 16. That is tough. And then the other real bad beat, going over to Trevor's game, who still has yet to win one. Yeah, he had obviously Javonte Williams goes down. That's tough. That's really sad. He's a stud. Josh Jacobs scored what, 2 touchdowns, 144 yards, 31 receptions, 32 points. That Javonte Williams had 3, Garrett Wilson had 5. Trevor lost by what, 19 points. So yeah, either one of those games could have swung by just swapping a few players around there. And then we had just Raleigh did it all over again. I mean, goes into Sunday night down, I believe it was 40. It was close to 40. I don't know how you recover from that one. I mean, Mike Evans, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, 26 points. Cooper Kupp, I mean, the Rams look like dog shit, and somehow Cooper Kupp, 122 yards, and I think he had 15 receptions. Am I looking at that right? 14 receptions. Career high in receptions, just to rub it right in John's face, and then the Rams defense showed up and put up a point. It wouldn't have really mattered what they did score. I mean, he lost by 10 with the 1 point, so you know, most defenses averaging 10 to 11. It could have swung, but it was going to be close either way. But that was just heartbreaking. So getting through all the sad news, let's flip over and let's look at the rankings and how they look this week. There's a little bit of movement. Raleigh's still in first place. We know he's 4-0, by far the most points. He's 60 points, like 58 points or so above second place, which is in points, which is Charlie, third place in the rankings. So the rankings go Raleigh, Cameron in second, Charlie in third, and myself in fourth. All of us, Cameron, Charlie, and myself, moving up 1 slot because of Wade's loss, moving him down to 2 and 2. And in the 5th place position, your other 2 and 2 is Andrew. And then we've got Tim, who jumped all the way up to 7th place. So big mover from Tim this week, winning his first game. John in the heartbreaking loss, dropping to 1 and 3 into 8th place. Ashley dropping another game, also at 1 and 3 in 9th, and then Trevor bringing it up the rear at 0 and 4. So that's what your rankings look like this week. If we go over to the waiver actions this week, because there was a lot of injuries, a lot of waiver moves that happened. Actually, I didn't even see this one. Charlie added OBJ. Charlie added OBJ, who is a questionable free agent. If you look at his schedule, he's got 17 bye weeks. You know, he's taking his recruiting trips to different locations. May go back with the Rams. Maybe may end up with the Packers. It looks like he is hanging out with the Giants this week. I don't even think he's eligible, or not eligible, but I don't even think he's you know, looking to play coming off that injury, off the torn ACL, until like week 11 or so. So a little stash there for Charlie, I guess. Tim picked up Michael Gallup, who is finally back from injury. Wade got Nyheim Hines off of the Jonathan Taylor news, which it looks like Jonathan Taylor is only going to miss Thursday night. And then we had Harrison Butker. I don't usually even talk about kickers, but Harrison Butker's coming back. John went ahead and picked him up. Then we have Latavius Murray, who was just signed and should be coming off of the Broncos practice squad here soon. Jared Goff, your number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Trevor looking to make some big changes. He also made a change at kicker, but you know, whatever. And then then obviously Riley made a big hubbub about the number one defense. Andrew picked up TJ Hawkinson off of one of the most insane tight end performances I've ever seen. John picked up Josh Reynolds off of the Lions, who, you know, kind of benefited from them just being an insane team last 3 weeks, 11, 12, 17. So good production there. Tyler Algier, Trevor was able to snag. I'm sure everybody was looking at him off the Cordero Patterson news. He's put on IR, so he's going to be missing a couple weeks. And then here's where Charlie re-picked up Andy Isabella and then dropped him promptly for, I assume, for OBJ. Yep, dropped OBJ for dropped Isabella for OBJ. So gave up on his boy, picked up a new one. Whatever, have fun, Charlie. Let's get into the games. We'll start, as always, as you just go down the ranking list, which means I pretty much always start with Riley's game. And this week, it's me taking on the defending champ and the 4-0 Raleigh football team. Projections have this one 101.08 to 120.32. Which I almost don't even want to read projections anymore because they're just so wrong every single week. But, you know, Raleigh being projected 120, that's massive off of just normal projections. Cooper Kupp the last couple weeks has been ranked or projected near 20, which is I almost heard of. Even quarterbacks, you don't really see a lot of them in the 20s, but he's got Lamb Jack at 22. Cooper Kupp, right at, we'll call it 19, is 18.8. And I don't think the projections are still listing Jamal Williams at like at around a 10, right around a 10. It's 9.87. Even his weeks as a backup, he went 15.5, 6.5, 23.7, and then last week as the full-time starter, and you could call him a full-time starter in week 3, 23.4. He has scored 2 touchdowns in every single game except for week 2. And that was, if you remember, that was the week that DeAndre Swift just went nuts in the Commanders game. He was kind of limited in that one. They were throwing the ball around. Amon-Ra St. Brown went crazy. So that's the only week that he's really been stymied. I mean, in week 1, he had 28 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is just insane. But he's had 2 touchdowns in all games but 1 this season. And he gets a New England defense that may not be the New England defense we've seen in the past, or what we you know, probably think of when we hear New England defense. You know, they're not this just wall that they usually are. So, you know, keeping him projected at 10, I think is really, really low. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, kind of in a similar boat. I mean, he's 20, 13, 12, 21 has been his 4 weeks. Scored a touchdown in every week except for 1, which was also that week 2 that Jamal Williams didn't score. But even that week, I mean, he had 74 yards on the ground, 44 through the air. That was the week they played the Chargers, and he almost outscored Austin Eckler, who, you know, was a top 5 running back coming into the week. But just as we all predicted and as we all drew up, I mean, Jamal Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are your number 3 and number 4 running backs in fantasy so far this year. Going over to Raleigh's running backs, Aaron Jones, Rashad Penny's coming out party was last week, but he was playing the 32nd ranked defense in the Lions. He gets New Orleans, which actually does have a really, really solid defense, and it's really the only thing they have going for him this year. So we'll see if he can keep up that type of production. I mean, his first 3 weeks, 7, 1, 7, and then he had the breakout game last week with 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I don't really know how sustainable that performance is. I don't think anybody does, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then Aaron Jones in the London game is actually terrifying to me. I know I talked a lot of shit last week about London games and people playing in London games, but you know, I think running backs tend to get a little bit of edge there. Just, you know, the game plan isn't really flowing well, and what easier way to win to hand the ball off, and they're playing the Giants. So I do think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, him and AJ Dillon both, but Aaron Jones has just kind of been the guy this year. And, you know, kind of doing Aaron Jones things. The one saving grace about him having Aaron Jones is that he's such a boom or bust player. You know, 9 points is not bad in week 1. Then he had the massive 30-point game in week 2, 132 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air, and then 40 receiving yards as well. And then the next week he comes back, lays an egg. It was against Tampa Bay, one of the better run defenses in the league. So, you know, not a whole lot to say about that. Really low scoring game, really ugly game. And then last week against New England, 110 yards on the ground, 5 through the air. So it kind of depends on what the game script's going to be. Are they going to come out and sling the ball all over the Giants defense? Are they going to try to ground and pound and get back on a plane? I still haven't heard any interesting news on Aaron Rodgers' vaccination status and if he's allowed to travel internationally, so that could play into that, but whatever. And then obviously the most disgusting thing here is the fact that Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase are going to be playing on Sunday night, and it's the Bengals versus the Ravens, and that is a game that just tends to get a little out there and a little weird. And if that game starts to get out of hand very, very quickly, I mean, they're just both, running up and down the field scoring points. That terrifies me because that's a game. Bengals Ravens Sunday night. That's a game that you could look up and it's 42-35. Lamar Jackson is driving down the field trying to win the game, and all of a sudden they both got 35 points. That terrifies me there. The good only saving grace is I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on Monday night just to kind of try to build up some hope if that does happen. But I could kind of just need a stinker on Sunday night, which I know we've had a lot of. Wouldn't mind if that continued. Christian Kirk had kind of a tough week. I don't think he caught a pass until maybe the fourth quarter. Yeah, he had 9 targets, only 2 receptions. He ended up with 60 yards on those 2 receptions. So, he kind of salvaged the day with 7.3 points. But that was his first kind of egg. I mean, he's playing the Chargers. The Chargers had a good game plan. They killed him. I'm sorry, I'm looking at week 3. That's on me. He's playing the Eagles, who are a really, really good defense. I've kind of been fading a lot of Eagles this year, but I didn't really have a choice. Terry McLaurin and the Commanders look awful, and then the rest of my receivers were hurt, not playing. So I didn't really have a choice, or I probably would have faded him on this week. But big bounce back opportunity here against Houston. Trevor Lawrence trying to get back right. CD Lamb has atoned for his week 1 and honestly week 3 sins. He had that drop touchdown after putting up 4 points in week 1. He's come back with at least 75 yards in each game and a touchdown in each of the last 2. Actually scored 18.7 points in each of the last 2 games, a touchdown 87 and a touchdown 97, making up obviously with the receptions there. And my kind of question mark going into this week is the Mike battle. Mike Williams, I actually even looked to see if Keenan Allen is going to be back this week. Obviously, as long as Keenan Allen's back, they're playing Cleveland. They should be able to put up points there. Mike Evans against Atlanta. The only thing there is, do they need Mike Evans to put up points again this week? I dealt with the Mike Evans bug all last year, and it was kind of like, if they need him, if they need a big red zone target, he's there. But if you're going to be beating Atlanta anyway, maybe Leonard Fournette has a big day. Let me check on Keenan Allen's status right quick while I'm looking at it. Did not practice Wednesday. Still day-to-day with the hamstring. They don't know if he's going to practice this week. Remains limited Sunday against the Browns. So, yeah. Mike Williams is obviously a must-start if Keenan Allen's out. And once again, I don't really have a ton of options. Michael Thomas may be back this week against the Seahawks that I could slot in. But he's not practicing either. So I don't really feel great about that. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor's out, which RFP to the GOAT. So we're probably running with Mike Williams this week. So the Mike battle there is going to be really interesting. Just two big Mikes. Red zone threats. This one, I mean, I've picked Raleigh every single week. In the predictions, but I gotta bet on myself. So I'm gonna go with the upset that I'm gonna beat Raleigh this week, and then I'll probably have to just eat shit for another 6 days after that. But I'm gonna go with myself against Raleigh. I was gonna do a hype video this week. The hype videos are 0-2, so I decided not to. I'm really glad I don't have to deal with Jonathan Taylor tomorrow night. Just that lingering ankle injury. But yeah, we'll see you Sunday there, big boy. Anyway, let's move on. We actually have another matchup of kind of the 3-1. So all the 3-1s actually play each other this week. It's kind of like a little mini playoff. 1 versus 4 seed with me and Riley, and then 2 versus 3 with Charlie and Cam. So that's actually real interesting. It's something I had kind of missed just quickly looking over this. And spoiler alert, I didn't look over this. I'm literally looking at the website for the first time. Also, it's 11:30 p.m. because I work tomorrow and I don't have time to record it in the morning. So, anyway, Charlie versus Cam. Once again, the Joe Burrow, opportunity for the Sunday night to just get weird with it. Let me actually look at the Vegas total in that game because now I've got myself interested. I mean, Baltimore is just not good as far as defense goes. And the Bengals are just kind of weird. So let me get a quick live research on what the line is in that. This is compelling radio. Over under set at 48. I mean, it's not the biggest number I've seen, but it's not exactly a small number either. I mean, just for comparison, the Raiders Chiefs Monday night is 51. Eagles Cardinals is 49, which that feels high. So 48. I mean, Vegas thinks that game's probably going to get weird too. 27-24, something like that. In that range. So once again, Joe Burrow would benefit a ton from that. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what else we need to say about that. And it's Patrick Mahomes in prime time. You know he's going to put up stupid numbers. He had two kind of bust weeks there in the middle. They lost to the Colts. He only put up 17 points, 262 yards and a touchdown. And then that weird Thursday night game where Justin Herbert kind of got hurt and the Chiefs kind of looked like they stunk a little bit. He only put up 17, but 34 in week 1, 23 last week. He's going to be fine. He's going to do his thing. Saquon Barkley. The return of the GOAT. You're depending on what scoring system you use, you're number 1 or number 2 running back in fantasy. Kind of right there with Nick Chubb. In our league, he's number 1. 30, 10, 20, 17, just pure consistency. And even his one down week, 72 yards on the ground, 16 through the air against Carolina. But he does get a pretty tough matchup with Green Bay in London. In that game, if Green Bay kind of goes the way I think they do with running Aaron Jones, and I think the Giants pretty much have to play Saquon, like just run the ball at Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones is still kind of questionable. Tyrod Taylor's hurt. They're back up. I don't know if they're going to sign somebody or fucking pick up somebody off the street in fucking London. What the hell they're going to do. Hell, last week they just started running the Wildcat with Saquon, and it was awesome. So, game script's probably going to feed heavy Saquon. So I think he could have a big week across the pond. Miles Sanders has looked really, really solid this year. Well, he looked solid last week. He's looked better than Miles Sanders typically does. As somebody who, in at least one league, has had Miles Sanders in every year since he kind of entered the league. And he usually just disappoints. Last week, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, as the Eagles kind of throttled Jacksonville, and they get a Cardinals team that. The defense is pretty good on the Cardinals, but that team is just, yeah. I'm kind of pissed off that I just have to watch him every week for Kyler. And then on the other side, got Nick Chubb, who kind of up there with Saquon. Right now, you're number 2 running back in fantasy. He's kind of been going back and forth with Saquon. 14, 30, 17, 19 his point totals in the first 4 weeks. Derrick Henry looked like he was all the way back last week. Actually, the last 2 weeks. He's played Vegas and he's played Indy. Two teams that were kind of just trying to figure themselves out and just trying to make it week to week, just trying to survive. But 22 points in both weeks. He's had a touchdown in 3 straight games. He kind of looks like he's all the way back, and the Commanders' defense is just so bad. So he should be able to bust out and have a big game. Pull in for Charlie. And then we look at the wide receivers. Outside of Stephon Diggs, this wide receiver group just kind of makes me want to vomit. Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, 11:30 p.m. by the way. DK Metcalf and Stephon Diggs. I mean, Stephon Diggs is incredible. He's gonna put up incredible points. Number 2 wide receiver in fantasy behind Kupp. But Tyler Lockett, I mean, he have a big week last week in that big game. I didn't even see his name. Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks put up 48 points and Tyler Lockett had 10. So I don't even know how that's possible that you score 48 as a team and you don't get in the end zone. I mean, everybody on the Seahawks. Pete Carroll scored a fucking touchdown last week, and Tyler Lockett didn't sniff the end zone. So I'm all the way out on Tyler Lockett. And then the other Seattle wide receiver, DK Metcalf, also didn't touch the end. Who the fuck scored for the Seahawks? Was it just Geno Smith and Rashad Penny? I mean, that's ridiculous that you have your number 1 and number 2 wide receiver didn't touch the end zone and you scored 48 points. At least DK had 150 yards. This is an insane realization I'm just having right now. DK Metcalf ranked your number 21 wide receiver in fantasy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I just saw Tyler Lockett was 22. Yeah, 21 and 22. They're dead even. That's incredible. Anyway, Kyle Pitts. We thought he was back for a week, but it turns out he was just playing the Seahawks. Last week, I mean, he had 2 catches for 25 yards, 3 catches for 25 yards. Hell, I was at the game and I don't even remember seeing him. I remember looking at him on the field, but he didn't do shit. So maybe with Cordero Patterson out, they finally get him involved, but he's playing the Bucs this week. I mean, who knows? I mean, tight end is kind of a wasteland. On the other side, you got Pat Freiermuth, who should benefit from Kenny Pickett. I mean, Kenny Pickett is better than Mitch. So that's all I will say about that. Leonard Fournette, kind of going back to my my Mike Evans theory. I mean, if they start clowning the Falcons, I think Leonard could be in for a huge game this week. 14, 8, 9, and 14 again. Finally got in the end zone last week, first touchdown of the season. He's had some pretty solid production. Kind of for Leonard Fournette, but he does rely a lot on touchdowns. But Chubb ran all over that Atlanta defense last week. I think Fournette should be able to as well. Just for comparison's sake, last week Chubb 118 and a touchdown. I think we could see some very similar production out of Leonard Fournette. And then Drake London, I mean, kind of in the same boat as Kyle Pitts. Hopefully with Cordero Patterson out and him just being awesome, they can get him the ball. They have these 2 incredibly huge, wide and fast wide receivers. Well, tight end, if you even want to call them that. They just aren't touching the ball. And you want to blame Mariota's, whatever, but they're not getting the ball, and I don't understand it. The Falcons should be so much fun to watch, and I mean, I guess they've been that way forever. So the website here, projections here have it 115 to 110 in favor of Cameron. I'm actually I say flip back, but I've picked Charlie in every game but one this season. I'm gonna go with Charlie again. I think that the combination of Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb and the matchups they get. I mean, Nick Chubb's gonna put up numbers. He does get a decently tough Chargers defense. But the Chargers just tend to let teams hang out in games. I don't know if you remember the Chargers-Browns game last year. It just got so stupid and out of hand. I think it was like 45 to 42 or something like that. 42-35. It just got stupid at the end. I don't think that's gonna happen again. Because Jacoby Brissett doesn't really have that weird switch that Baker Mayfield can hit, where he just looks awesome for a quarter and then turns back into Baker Mayfield. But I think that combo is going to be too tough to overcome. I mean, outside of Stephon Diggs hanging another 40 piece, I just don't see enough production here from Cameron. So I'm going to go with Charlie. Moving on to 4-1 and possibly taking over second place from Cameron. I don't exactly know how the head-to-head's going to work out if I end up beating Raleigh, but that's the way I see it shaking out. So Charlie's taking this one. Jumping over to, we actually have to jump all the way down to 5th place now, which is Wade against his one arch nemesis, Ashley. If we get the return of Ashley's bitch, Ashley's bitch, can't curse, my bad. I honestly, I don't know how Wade recovers, and the projections right now have it in favor of Ashley by half a point. This is I think the closest game of the year, 111.5 to 111.01. Literally half a point. One reception is what the website thinks is going to separate Wade from Ashley this week. And then running down the list of players here, you all know what I think of Justin Herbert. Actually, he's right there. That's Herbie. That's the boy. Sorry, I meant to introduce him at the beginning of the episode and I forgot. Anyway, I love Justin Herbert. He's probably my second favorite quarterback in the league right now, behind obviously Josh Allen. Playing the Browns. Talked about it with Nick Chubb. That is another game that could just get weird. It's in the 1 o'clock slot, so it's the perfect time to just get fucking weird with it. It's in Cleveland. That's one that, like, if we're watching Red Zone, and like all the 1 o'clock games have ended, you know, normally, you know, maybe there was a drive and a kick field goal to win it, and then there's still 7 minutes left in this game because they just keep scoring. They can't stop scoring. Neither team can get a stop. That can 100% happen again in this game. Nick Chubb maybe just running up and down the field. Justin Herbert just slinging it to whoever. Austin Eckler, you know, 300 yards. That game could get funky. It could also be 17-10. And I don't think it's going to be anywhere in between those two things. It's either going to suck and be unwatchable, or it's going to be the most electric game of the season. On the other side, Tom Brady had a really big week last week, actually. 385 and 3 touchdowns. I think I heard a stat earlier that he's the first person to ever throw for over 350 yards and 3 touchdowns and lose. I don't think that's true. There was some weird stat with it. But I mean, he scored 31 points and he got his ass kicked. Like, it wasn't even that he scored 31 points and lost a nail biter. Like, he scored 31 points. The Bucks scored 31 points and they got their ass kicked, but that's just the Chiefs. So he kind of looks all the way back. Chris Godwin's kind of halfway back. Mike Evans is back from his suspension. Tom Brady looks like Tom Brady a little bit. Going down the running backs here, James Robinson off of, had a huge week in week 3, and has actually had just a good season all over. 19, 14, 19, and then the Eagles showed up and he stunk and he got 2.9 points. So kind of looking to return to form here, which I think he'll do. Houston's not good, so he should be able to bounce back. Ramondre Stevenson. Detroit can stop no one. So it's weird as it is. I know we had the discussion earlier about starting Detroit's defense against Bailey Zappi. I think you start every Patriot except for maybe Bailey Zappi, and basically you start Ramondre Stevenson and Damon Harris because they're the only startable Patriots. I think they're going to run all over Detroit. I think even Trevor said it. They're going to have like 50 rushing attempts and win the game, which I could absolutely see happening. Antonio Gibson and James Conner on the other side. We know James Conner. He is a 100% touchdown dependent. And he's only had 1 this season, so that's kind of what made him what he was last year. Is he was just every game he was scoring a touchdown. Well, that doesn't really work if the Cardinals aren't scoring touchdowns, and when they do score touchdowns, it's just Kyler running around and running in, maybe slinging a ball to Hollywood Brown. I mean, the Cardinals, I think, are just kind of trying to stay afloat until week 7 when they get D-Hop back. And hopefully he can just open that offense all the way up. But whatever, as a Kyler owner, I'll let him run around and run it in. Antonio Gibson. Actually, is Brian Robinson playing this week or is it next week? Where's... return to practice. When I have a 21-day window evaluating practice. Should be able to play, but not this week. So Antonio Gibson, still a startable person. Playing Tennessee, who did shut down Jonathan Taylor last week, and the Commanders' offensive line is really bad. The problem with Tennessee is, as good as they are and as many big games as they'll win, they'll probably fucking lose this one. Like, they just lose to weird teams, and maybe Carson Wentz comes out and has the game of his life. Antonio Gibson, I don't even really know how to. The problem is I don't watch the Commanders enough. I'll watch the Terry McLaurin highlight because he's on my team. I don't watch the Commanders. Like, who Commanders fans don't watch the Commanders. Nobody watches the Commanders. They're not even fun bad like the Lions. They're just bad. So whatever. I mean, maybe he'll score 11 points. I don't even know his point totals this year. 16, 11, 10, and 7. I mean, they've been whatever, but it's the Commanders. I'm not watching them. Debo's fucking awesome. He had that huge run on Monday night. When I say huge run, it was a reception, but he ran the whole thing. Had 20 points, 115 yards, a touchdown. Just an absolute man on the field. Um, he could. I think if you just gave him a football against the Panthers, fully 1v11, you can win that game. And that's not even an exaggeration. I think 100% if you just handed Debo a football and said, can you go win this game against the Panthers, he would do it. And I don't think it would be close. Justin Jefferson on Wade's side. I mean, he's the best player in football. Not player. I mean, he's the best receiver in football, I think. I mean, Cup probably is the better argument there. But just from a fucking pure talent perspective, he's the best player in football. 147 yards last week, had a rushing touchdown, 26 points. Kind of had some down weeks against Philly, and then against Detroit, he kind of got. That's weird. I don't even remember that. That was the week I was at work. I don't remember watching that. Anyway, 26 points last week. Kind of returned back to it. Number 4 in fantasy right now, and I think he's got a legitimate shot to go number 1. If Kirk Cousins can get his head out of his ass and get him the football. Devontae Smith, people were shitting on him after week 1 where he put up literally 0 points. 11, 27, and then 3 last week. So he had another down week last week. I think he should show up against the Cardinals. He's kind of one of those that the Eagles are so, like, obviously AJ Brown's really good. Jalen Hurts is good. Past that, I mean, Miles Sanders, okay. Kenneth Gainwell is fun, but the Eagles just get in these weird zones where they'll just run the ball nonstop, and nobody can really stop them, and you don't really know which running back it's going to be. So it's hard for me to trust anybody outside of AJ Brown. But, I mean, Devontae Smith, the upside is there for sure. Getting down into the flex spots, T. Higgins is an absolute beast. 124 yards and a touchdown against Miami last Thursday. They were really not able to get the ball to Jamar Chase. And once again, he's got that game in Baltimore, which just has the chance of getting out of hand. And at the very least, it doesn't get out of hand. The Ravens secondary just stinks. So him and Jamar should be able to feast all over that, which scares me even more. Jeff Wilson on the other side, he actually had a pretty solid game, a touchdown, 74 yards, 13 points. He's looked okay ever since coming in for the Elijah Mitchell injury. He's been a consistent 10-point getter, which in your flex, I guess, is all you can really ask for. But once again, I mean, the 111.5 to 111, I can't even just pick chalk here because it's so close. So I think I have to go with the historical data on this one, which means unfortunately, Wade, sorry bud, Ashley is taking it again, and mostly I just want you to have to change your name again. So that's really just my rooting interest here. So I'm gonna go with Ashley taking this one. Sorry, Wade. Let's go over to the other 2-2 team against our 0-4. So that's Andrew against Trevor. Trevor kind of tried to revamp his team on the waivers this week. Added Jared Goff. Obviously dropping Tua off of the injury, which who knows how much time he's gonna miss and if he's gonna come back the same after back-to-back pretty brutal head injuries. Doesn't look like he's starting him, or maybe he just hasn't put him in the lineup yet. Not sure. We'll just kind of keep an eye on that. But right now he has Aaron Rodgers in the starting slot, playing at 9:30 on London. I've already kind of touched on that game. I do think it has the potential to get it pretty run heavy. And once again, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's allowed to travel internationally, so we'll see how that plays out. This is a joke, by the way. He's 100% going to win. Making sure everybody got it. Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, 31 more yards in the air, and all from Trevor's bench. That is tough, buddy. Plays Kansas City on Monday night. That should be a exciting game at least. I don't know if it's gonna be good, but it'll be exciting at least. Jalen Hurts, kind of touched on him too. I think he should absolutely feast on the Cardinals. But that's also one of those games that you could look up and the Eagles have dominated. It never felt like the Cardinals were in it, but it's 17-9. Just a weird uniform matchup. I don't know. Vibes are kind of off in that game. The Eagles in Arizona. I don't love it. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's been just one of the more consistent guys in the league. 24, 33, 27, and 15 last week. Kind of a down week. He had an interception. But he didn't really need to ball out against the Jags. His defense was good enough to show up and kind of stifle him a little bit. They started the game down 14-0. I mean, they had an immediate pick six, and then Agnew scored a touchdown. They were down 14-0. Went on a 29-7 run. So was not nearly as close as what that final score ended up being. But you know, he had a pretty down week. Being it was down week, he had 200 yards on the ground, 200 yards in the air, 38 on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. He has had a rushing touchdown, four rushing touchdowns in 4 games. Only 1 game without one, and that's why you love having Jalen Hurts on your team. Getting into the running backs, talked about Josh Jacobs. Devin Singletary had an okay week. I mean, he had a good week against Miami in week 1, 78 yards receiving, 13 on the ground. His 20-point week, that's the only time he's broken 10 points all year. I hate Bills running backs. I tried to draft one and he got dropped in week 2, so I just can't stand Bills running backs. Maybe they get him going against Pittsburgh. They don't really need Josh Allen to win that game. So we could see them try to rely on Devin Singletary a little bit more. I don't think so, but they could. Najee Harris, I mean, I think he's got the most consistent stat lines across the board as far as just points go. 9, 11, 11, 7, 23 yards, 49 yards, 56 yards, 74 yards. He's got 2 touchdowns on the season, one in the air, one on the ground. Yeah. Probably the second biggest disappointment in terms of running back, first round running backs. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is probably your number 1, although he did have that 26-point week in week 1. But Najee is. It is not Najee's fault. I mean, Najee's still good. That Steelers offense is so fucking bad, though. I mean, and maybe Kenny Pickett helps open things up for him. You hope so, but he's playing the Bills, so I don't really trust it. So this may be, and then you got Mixon against the Baltimore game. Once again, could get weird. Mixon should be involved. Should be a good game. I think of those 4, I trust Mixon to score the most. Just because he gets so many touches. I mean, last week he had 24 rushes. How many receptions? 4 receptions, 4 targets, 4 receptions. So he touched the ball 28 times. And he put up 74 yards. You just get so many touches, and then of course you got a touchdown to help things out there, help the scorecard a little bit. He just touches the ball so much that he's gonna get production here and there. The receivers here kind of make it interesting. Now, if you just look at the names, I'm gonna read you the names of one team and read you the names of the other. One team is Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. The other is Tyler Boyd and Gabriel Davis. One of those is significantly better than the other one. So if you're just going off vibes alone, and honestly off skill and points and potential, one of those is obviously a lot better than the other one. Devontae Adams should eat. I mean, he's been good all season. He's been good for years. 25, 8, 11, and 15 last week, had 101 yards. He's crossed 100 yards in 2 games this season, had a touchdown in every game except last week. So he's going to get points. Tyreek Hill is actually on pace to set the single season yardage record. I think it was set by Cup last year. I make that up. Might have made that up. Anyway, he's on pace to break it. He has 477 yards through 4 weeks. Insane. And he had this, and that's even with the stinker of 33 yards in week 3. 94, 190, 33, and then last week had 160. Of course, he's got Teddy Bridgewater throwing to him next week, but with Tyreek Hill, just get it to him 5 yards and let him go. So, yeah, I mean, it's Tyreek Hill. If you get down into the flex, Chris Godwin versus Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch is not going to be in the starting lineup on Sunday, and if it is, come on, Greg Dortch is not going to be in the starting lineup Sunday. A, he's playing the Eagles. Probably one of the right now the best playing defense in the league. B, it's fucking Greg Dortch. Had 1 point last week. So I imagine we'll see Dobbins probably finally sneak his way into the lineup there. Maybe Thielen if you're feeling a little frisky, but I'm gonna go ahead and assume Dobbins. So we're gonna break him down. We talked about him at the beginning when we were talking about him coming off an injury and injury being scared to play him. All he did was score 2 touchdowns and have 63 yards. So yeah, J.K. Dobbins still pretty good. He is nursing a chest injury, so that's something to keep an eye on. And if not, if he can't go, I imagine we'll see. Oh no, never mind. He's got Damian Harris. Oh, against the Lions. Oh. I'll be honest, buddy. I'm probably benching Najee. Anyway, this is not a fantasy advice show. I'm sorry. Anyway, if he makes those changes, we might have something to talk about. But right now, I mean, this lineup for Andrew is not rolling out. I mean, we know it's not. So I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to assume that he's going to make the correct decisions off the bench here, which is a bold assumption. But I'm going to make it. Even with that, I mean, I think the combo of Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Chris Godwin is going to be too much to overcome. I'm actually going to go with Trevor getting his first win this week and moving to 1-4 and from last place to possibly not last place. But we'll see how that works out. But Trevor's going to get the win this week. Yeah, that's my bold prediction for the week. And honestly, I don't even think it's that bold. If you look at his team, he should win. If he had started this lineup last week, he would have won. It's just that he didn't, and that's how fantasy goes. So I'm sorry, bud. But yeah, I think Trevor's finally getting on the board this week. Last but not least, we've got the 1-3 battle between Tim and John. John losing an absolute heartbreaker last week. Tim getting his first win last week. Two teams kind of moving in opposite directions. Which John, I mean, has had solid weeks. I don't think there's a week where he has been just bad. Like, there's not a week where he hasn't scored enough points or that he's been like the bottom scorer. I mean, you had Cameron with the 40-point burger from Stefan on a Monday night to take the win, and then you had Riley with Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp, which, like, if you see Cooper Kupp on a primetime game on a Monday or a Sunday and you're up any amount of points, it doesn't really matter how much it is, you're losing that game. That game's over. You just take your lumps and go home. I've been there. John has not been there. Plenty of us have been there. Just honestly don't even watch the game. I literally wouldn't. John going back with his faith in Russell Wilson this week. I think was it last week that you started Trevor Lawrence? I believe it was. Which no, you did start Russ last week. Okay, and he had 27. So yeah, I mean, it was good. He had that one little Am I making that up? Didn't you have an experiment with Trevor Lawrence? Did he suck? Was it 2 weeks ago? Why can't I read? There it is. Oh no, it's Carson Wentz. Ooh, sorry, bud. Even worse. Anyway, Russ had 27 last week. I mean, the Broncos still haven't looked good, but at least Russ, I mean, 237 yards. He did get kind of boosted there by a rushing touchdown, but that's kind of what you want to see out of Russell Wilson. He is nursing a shoulder injury, so we'll see if he's 100% against the Colts. It looks like he's going to play, but we'll see how that affects him. Excuse me, sorry. Been talking all day. Throat's getting dry. So I'm putting my body through hell for you guys. Anyway, Russell Wilson, 27 points, like I said. So, playing the Colts. Colts still a solid defense and a really bad offense. This is gonna be an ugly game. I think it's gonna be much like that 49ers Broncos game we got, not this past week, but the week before on Sunday night. I think it's just gonna be ugly. I think it's gonna be tough to watch. Maybe Russ sneaks in a couple touchdowns and makes it respectable. But Jonathan Taylor's out and the Broncos stink. So I might not even watch this game. And then speaking of, Cortland Sutton and Michael Pittman are John's wide receivers. John has to watch every second of this game, and oh my god, I think I would actually, I think I would just end it all. Honestly, if I had to watch this game for 3 of my players, I think I would Yeah, I think it'd be over. Um, on the other side, Tim, Josh Allen. Josh Allen. He said, I mean, his down week last week where he struggled against the Ravens, and the down week before that where he lost to the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins week he had 400 yards and 2 touchdowns and 50 rushing yards. You know, he lost a fumble. He should have had 28 points if you get the fumble shit under control. Last week he threw a pick, had 213 yards and 70 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. His down week was 24 points. His down week was what we would pray for out of our quarterback every single week. His down week was what I said Russ is back with. So it's Josh Allen. Dalvin Cook did end up playing last week after some questions. 76 yards and 10 more in the air. 9.6 points. I mean, it's a respectable week. Dalvin Cook, kind of another one of those round one running back disappointments that we all love. He's playing the fucking Bears. Bears stink. They stink. The Giants did just get done running it all over the Bears. In a point where it never was it a question that the Giants were going to run the ball because they didn't have a quarterback. They were literally running the Wildcat and just ran it down the throat. So maybe you get excited about that. And then obviously Aaron Jones had that awesome game against the Bears on that Sunday night game. So that's kind of your saving grace. So hopefully maybe this will get him back cooking. But knowing the Vikings, Kirk Cousins will probably just force feed it to Justin Jefferson and then throw 7 picks. Austin Eckler is fully back. 3 touchdowns, 60 rushing yards, 50 more receiving yards. He finally got in the end zone and then just said, "Oh yeah, that was sick. Let me do it 2 more times." So hopefully he's fully back. And then the Browns game, I kind of touched on it, has potential to get a little bit wonky. Chris Olave has looked great. He was awesome at Ohio State. Took him a few weeks to kind of get his groove, but he has just kind of been getting better and better every week. 41 yards, 80 yards, capped it off at 147 yards, and then had 67 yards and a touchdown last week. I believe it'll be the Red Rocket again. I don't think Jameis is playing, which honestly kind of might just be better for Chris Olave. So full-blown starting him. Obviously Tim lost Cordero Patterson, which stinks, and kind of why he's thrust into starting Khalil Herbert this week, who he's kind of been relying on or trying to rely on, I guess. He missed the 130-point week that he had in there with Houston, but Khalil Herbert's got the Vikings. I mean, it's the Vikings. Once again, that's another game that if you have to watch the Vikings and the Bears, I will actually pray for you. And then on the last one on John's side, we got AJ Brown playing the Cardinals. AJ Brown should run all over the Cardinals. Yeah, I mean, 155 yards, 69 yards was his down week, 85 yards and a touchdown, 95 yards. Kind of been struggling to find the end zone, but I think a lot of what happens is they throw the ball over to AJ Brown to get down to the red zone, and then Jalen Hurts just runs it in. So a little bit of bad touchdown luck there, but he's still dominating even without it. Top 10 wide receiver to this point. Yeah, AJ Brown is awesome. So as far as predicting this one, I mean, the website has its 105 to 112 in favor of Tim. I mean, John has had some really bad luck, some really bad beats. I mean, if you just look at this game, I tend to, and I didn't even touch on Hollywood playing the Eagles. I think Hollywood for Tim's going to struggle this week. I think the Cardinals are just going to struggle with the Eagles. It could be a bloodbath. And honestly, I'm talking about it so much and saying it so bad that I might have to stream a quarterback this week. I'm not gonna, because it's Kyler and whatever, but I don't like it. Anyway, really hard to kind of pick this one. But if we're going with recent trends, and to be fair, John, you're about to hear this, and I think you're gonna get upset. Just remember that 2 of my 3 wrong predictions this year have included Tim. So I'm gonna go with Tim, taking down John. Getting 2 wins in a row, kind of getting back into the season, putting him at 2-3, and John kind of heading in the wrong direction, joining the Stevensons down there in Lastville. But yeah, that's the preview. So just running back through these picks real quick. I have bold prediction of the week myself. Actually, that was not the bold prediction of the week, but the believe in yourself prediction of the week. Myself beating Raleigh. Then I have Charlie taking down Cameron. Was that what I picked? I don't even remember at this point. Yeah, it was. Charlie taking down Cameron. Ashley taking down Wade. Trevor taking down Andrew. And then Tim beating John. That is it. We'll see you next week.